everyone. Welcome back to our weekly series. I am Davidson. I'm joined by the awesome Nicole, our Lupus Warrior of the Week. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking out our weekly episodes. We're so excited to hear her story. It's very unique, and I can't wait for her to share it. So let's jump right in. Nicole, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So we talked before we got on camera about your journey and how long it's been. And I know you're going to share a lot of that tonight with everyone, but can you tell us what lupus has taught you before you even get into the journey? What are some things that you've learned from the journey?
Lupus has taught me not to sweat the small stuff. That life is so much bigger than someone cutting you off in traffic or your coworker being rude.
She know all my business. She been ear hustling on my prayers with God. I don't know.
But that's what it's taught me. It's like when you have something that at times you feel like it's taken your ability to just even go out and hang out with friends, you start to appreciate just the stuff that you can do.
Yeah.
And you start to kind of prioritize and realize, all right, I don't have time for foolishness. And so, yeah, I think I downsized my friends. Well, friends. Because also stress is not good. So I stay out of the confusion. I stay out of the ugliness. I stay in my lane, and I try to make every day worth it.
That's important. I'm glad you brought that up because that stress piece can put you right back in flare land, as I like to call it. Nobody wants to be in flare land. If you had any type of flare since you've been diagnosed, you know exactly what that feels like. And sometimes they last a little longer. Sometimes they're short. Sometimes they're long. So initially, tell us how you even found out that you had lupus.
Okay, well, it's been an extremely long journey. Back in 1993, when I was 18, I found out I was pregnant. Luckily, for the most part, even at 18, I was pretty regular. So I knew as soon as I missed my cycle that something was wrong. And so I had been going to the doctors regularly, trying to hide it from my mom, but I was going to the doctors.
Right.
So I was 18 and hadn't quite graduated high school yet. About 6 months into the pregnancy, they were like, your blood pressure's high, you're retaining water, you're spilling protein in your urine, and I was just sick.
Wow.
And then at one point they were like, okay, well, we think you may have this thing called lupus. Up until that point, I had never.
So you were 6 months by this point when they mentioned.
Yeah, lupus. I was about 4 or 5 months pregnant, but at 6 months, that's when they were finally like, look, we're gonna give you steroids. I ended up being hospitalized. So I went from I'm 5'2". I went from this petite 5'2", 125 pound 18-year-old to 160 pounds within months. I still have giant stretch marks because my body blew up so quickly, because between the pregnancy and steroids, it was just so much. But at that point, that was the first mentioning of lupus.
Right.
Unfortunately, due to all of the complications, it wasn't a healthy pregnancy. It wasn't a successful pregnancy. My body, because my body goes wackadoodle, it started sending antibodies through the placenta and basically caused a heart blockage in my son, which caused him to be underdeveloped, on top of the fact that his mother's taking steroids, trying to stay healthy. My kidneys were just not behaving well. And so they forced me to have, well, they didn't force me to have a cesarean, but my life was in danger.
Right. So
and
they had to.
They had to. Yeah. And so, he wasn't able with his size and with his heart condition, he wasn't able to survive.
Wow.
And so at that point, you know, like I said, what has it taught me? At that point at 18, you have a lot of different priorities. And when you are confronted with your own, you know, mortality of thinking that you may not survive, and then on top of that, you also lose a child, you put a lot of things in perspective and you prioritize. And so I grew up. I went from 18 to probably 81 in a matter of months.
I can imagine. Wow. Did you have a lot of support going through that?
I had my mom. I had a few classmates that did come visit me because I had graduated high school by that point.
Okay.
And so it was hard because, again, at 18, no one wants to hang out with the girl who almost died. Like,
I would have, like I did.
You would hang out with me because we kind of got this thing.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Even then, I didn't have lupus, but I'm just that kind of person, you know, the weird one, the loner.
My really close friends that were my really close friends back then, they're still my friends now.
Oh, good.
But, yeah, it didn't pan out that way. But you would think, knowing all of that, that they would have said, oh, you know, Nicole, you have lupus. Let us treat you. They proceeded to tell me, well, you might have just had toxemia. You might have just had an episode. Some women, this happens to them. It could just be lupus while pregnant. And so we don't need to treat it because you're fine now. Okay. Even though I was on steroids for probably a full, almost a year after the cesarean. I gave birth in November. I was on steroids until about February of 94.
Wow. So they kept you on it even though they didn't
because
think
my
it was
kidneys
lupus.
were still like not behaving. So after all of that had happened, you know, I'd still like, I guess for us people with lupus, I still had joints, I had aches, I had pains, I had just little stuff. But they still didn't call it lupus.
Right.
I had high blood pressure. I had lost a lot of the weight, but they still wouldn't call it lupus. So
they just said you're fine.
They said you're fine. I took blood pressure medicine for years. So fast forward to, I met my now husband and we were having another child, completely afraid that I was going to have this very same episode again of becoming sick. Perfect pregnancy. My blood pressure evened out. I tell them all the time, my miracle baby. My blood pressure evened out. I was on no medicine at all.
Wow.
Miracle baby. He was my miracle. And so they were like, see, told you, you're fine, no problem, don't worry about it. Well, that was 96. Had a wonderful pregnancy. Fast forward to 2001. I'm pregnant again. And it's deja vu of 1993. So now, you know, they starting the steroids early. I'm on the prednisone earlier. I'm doing all of this stuff. It's just, you know, not fun. And, you know, we thought we had gotten in front of the issue. But again, my body decided, oh, look, there's a placenta. We're going to send some antibodies because, you know.
So the same thing happened basically again from the first pregnancy into the third.
Yep.
So at this point, they still never say, looking back at your chart and comparing those notes from the first one to say this is lupus.
Nope.
Wow.
So now, you know, I've now went through this ordeal yet again. So that was in 2001. It was not until somewhere around 2000, I wasn't quite 35 yet. It's crazy to say that it from 18 to 35, but I was very close to it because I remember thinking 17 years is what it's taken for me to finally have a diagnosis. I was exhausted. I was exhausted. So my husband, and you mentioned in support staff or support system, you know, he's always there to support me. He looked at me, he said, you don't look good. And so I'm always really good about camouflaging my pain, my discomfort,
Girl, we get good at that.
If I'm having a bad day, no one knows, because you become a professional liar. How are you? Oh, I'm good. And that's what you say. Because no one wants to hear, well, everything hurts, my back hurts.
They say it's complaining, but yet they ask you, and then when you say you're fine, they say, but you're lying when they find out afterwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so it's catch-22. You really can't tell the truth.
Right.
But
you're forced to lie.
You're forced to lie because it's acceptable. No one wants to hear that you're having a really bad day.
Right.
So, but he saw me and he said, you don't look good. So at that point, I knew, okay, I must look like hell because he, he's seen me throughout this whole journey. And he's like, you don't look good. I was barely I was still able to get up to work, but I was exhausted. Coffee, Red Bull, 5-hour energies, B12 tablets.
Oh my gosh.
I was taking anything that could give me a burst because I was exhausted. So I finally, I went to my primary care, who's no longer my primary care. If you have a doctor that
see how she put that out there, like, we done.
Yeah, because it's your life.
Yeah,
that
you got to be your own advocate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I finally went to them, and I had to beat it in their brain. Something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with me. Something is wrong. And so they finally ran a whole bunch of lab work. They said, you know what? I do see some inflammation. Maybe you do need to go see a rheumatologist. Okay. So now I probably hadn't seen a rheumatologist at that point in nearly 16 years. Because again, I saw a rheumatologist on and off as my kidneys were getting themselves back together.
Okay.
And so I don't have a rash. I don't, I just have all these inside owies.
Right.
And so it was just impossible to get the insurance, the doctors, anyone
to take you seriously. Because I noticed that too, not having that butterfly rash, and I don't know if some of you are watching or familiar with the butterfly rash, but if you don't have that, sometimes people don't believe you.
Yeah. They assume that there's just one way that lupus represents itself. And so I went to a rheumatology doctor within the same office. They weren't in the same practice, but they were, one of those office buildings with a bunch of doctors. So I went there. That was mistake number 2.
Oh God.
So I went to the rheumatologist, and he began to, he prescribed Plaquenil. And so that was the drug to use to keep the kind of inflammation and flares down. Yeah. And so maybe I don't know, not even a year later, I noticed my teeth were just awful. So I've always not been able to wear contact lenses and things like that because my eyes get really dry. And I just assumed it was, I have bad allergies, because usually I would get contacts in the summertime because I would want to wear sunglasses. And so I was like, oh, my allergies, that's why the contacts can't stay in. Well, I started cavity. And it's frustrating because it's okay, I brush, I floss, I don't understand why my teeth are crumbling. And so I said to the rheumatologist, I said, hey, look, by the way, my teeth, does lupus mess up your teeth? And he says, he looks at my chart and he's like, oh, well, you have Sjogren's. No one told you? And so,
y'all hear this? I just got to pause for a second, because you go for one thing and they're like, oh, wait a minute, you had Sjogren's. Nobody even mentioned Sjogren's all these years.
No. So this is the first time I ever heard. And honestly, I didn't know what it was. So yet again.
Nobody. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't even spell it. Oh! When I was diagnosed with it, I was like, SHO. I'm like, no, that's not it. No, went to Google, was SJ. I was like, oh, I'm way off.
I didn't, it's I didn't even know how to spell it. So here I am. I'm like, oh my geez. So now I'm looking it up, and I'm trying to figure out, he was like, oh yeah, it'll make your mouth dry. Just, some sugar-free candy. And yeah, that's why your eyes are dry and blah, 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 blah. And he was so dismissive. He was just like, you know,
it's no big deal.
here's a prescription. Goodbye. You're fine. It's like, I feel, and this is, you know, I understand that there are warriors out there who their suffering is way above and beyond my day-to-day knee, back aches and pain. But it's almost as if they wait for you to be near the point of needing a hospital or near the point of needing immune suppressing chemo. Like they don't take you serious until you are so sick to that point.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because it's like, I understand that I want to stay at my baseline of, oh, my knee hurts. If you guys were to watch me stand up, you would, the back and the faces, and you know, my husband.
We all are there.
I know, my husband says, he's like, what's all those noises? I said, it's just me getting up.
Body parts cry, okay?
The pain, the aches, the owies. And so, yeah, so at that point, I decided I left my primary care doctor and I left that rheumatologist. And so, you know, now I see a different rheumatologist. She's wonderful. Dr. Bernadette Chatone. I love
Shout
her.
out.
Yeah. And so she listens to me and she talks to me, and, you know, she's an advocate, and, you know, anytime anything else is going on, she's like, don't let everyone just blame it on lupus. It could be something else. Let us figure this out.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, I have a friend, she's heavyset, and she says she walks in the doctor's office and, doctor, my toe hurts. Oh, it's because you're fat. Well, doctor, my toe hurts. It's because you have lupus. Doctor, my head hurts. Oh, it's because you have lupus. Doctor, you know, it's because you have lupus. Everything is because you have lupus. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that's wrong.
But it's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that will be affected because of lupus. But I think the point that she's trying to make is let them do the work. Don't let them dismiss you and say, oh, it's lupus. Let them actually do the investigation.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're lazy and they're like, yeah, I said lazy. Because they'll just assume that it's that one thing. And in your case, it turns out to be Sjogren's and not lupus. And they weren't even looking for lupus. They were just dismissing you altogether.
Right.
So you have lupus with an overlap of Sjogren's, just like I do, which affects your eyes and your saliva. Those glands don't produce enough liquid, and from time to time, like literally, part of my tooth broke off.
Oh,
I was eating corn, and I was like, I like corn. Where did my tooth go? Like, I was literally like panicking. Like, did I eat it? Like,
yeah. Luckily, the front is pretty good, but all of my molars, I'm like,
oh my gosh.
It's just like all of them either have been drilled for one reason or another, or like I have an empty spot there where, you know, root canal here, root canal there.
That's my biggest fear in going to the dentist and knowing that it's coming, because like I said, I know it's coming. So it's amazing when we meet somebody else and our stories mirror. Nicole and I actually met on Instagram.
We met on Instagram because we have a mutual friend.
Yeah. So one of my high school mates, Danielle, told Nicole about my YouTube my YouTube channel. Nicole started following me on Instagram, and I think I might have been posting videos, and I reached out to you. Is that how it goes?
Well, I missed your Instagram post because it posted like earlier that day. But Danielle saw it and she inboxed me and she said one simple word: share. Because she and I, we used to work with each other, and, you know, she's heard, because while we worked together for probably about 6 or 7 years. So she's heard all of like some of my stories. She's seen, you know, me extremely tired. She's seen, you know, just my really good days and my really bad days. And she just, you know, she says share. And so.
Wow. who would have thought from that, you know, we were sitting right next to each other in your home. Like, I think it's so important when I say, you know, share these episodes, you don't know who it can benefit. I had no idea. Like, because literally sometimes when I'm being brutally honest about my stuff, like we talk about how when people ask you how you're doing, when people ask you how you're doing, you ever notice how they keep walking? They don't really want to know. They just asking just to be polite. Yeah. And Danielle is the kind of person that she'll see me out and she'll be like, so how you doing today? And she actually stop and wait for a response. And I'll be feeling guilty, like, I can't even lie to her. I got to tell her the truth. You know what I mean? She's that kind of person. So the fact that I didn't even know she was, you know, sharing the information. So sometimes people share stuff and you don't even know that they're doing it. So thank you, Danielle. You out here, you know, being my cheerleader, and I don't even know what you're doing, so I appreciate you. And from this, now we have Nicole sharing her story that I know is going to bless so many people, because I don't have any kids, and one day I hope to have kids. Yeah, I put an S on it. I can't believe I just did that. I just put an S on that thing. It's been just kid for the longest. Now that must be the Holy Spirit, because that ain't me. But just hearing her story of her miracle baby, it's just amazing. I know that's going to bless somebody else, because there are people out there who have trouble having kids as a result of lupus, and just knowing that you've been through that and you have success. Yeah. That's going to give somebody else hope. And the fact that people can see that they're not alone in this. You know, sometimes we go through stuff and we're like, oh, I'm by myself. You know, nobody else understands. This is why I do these episodes. This is why I go out and I sit with people, because I don't want anybody to feel like I did when I was first, you know, going through it before I was diagnosed. I didn't know what it was. Like my psychiatrist asked me, am I sure I'm not imagining the pain? Because I wouldn't take the antidepressants from her. Like, I almost flipped that room upside down, but I was like, no, they're going to put you in handcuffs. You know, I had to really evaluate that situation, because I felt so disrespected that nobody believed me. I didn't have a rash. I didn't have any physical signs. All I had was my kidneys were failing, my liver failing, a mass on my lung, and pain that nobody could see. So I wasn't believed. So I totally get what you're saying. So to go through that, yeah, it does grow you up. And to know that you went through that at 18 and to lose a baby and then turn around, that was what, 93?
Yep, 93. And
in 2001, lost another child in 2001 as a result of lupus. I commend you for standing. I commend you for standing, because that takes so much courage for you to even sit here and share your story. You are strong. You are a warrior. You are the definition of warrior. Do you know how many people have folded? Things you've been through have killed them, not because they took their lives, but because they did not fight back. Yep. You fought back, and you keep fighting back. Yep. And you keep sharing your story, because you're not here because of your good looks. Honey, you cute and all, but I'm just saying, you ain't here for your good looks. I'm just trying to tell you something. You ain't here for your good looks. You're here to share that. That's something that people need to know. Give them hope. Yeah. That's not an easy fight. And to know that you had people around you to help push you and hold you up, that's an even bigger blessing. Yep. I know people that go through it and they don't have anybody. And it breaks my heart when I see them on social media and they're posting and they're crying out for help. And I'm like, I just want to go give them a hug. Yeah. You see it every time you go to the online groups, but
the lupus groups.
I can't get in those groups sometimes. It does something.
I left a group. I left a Facebook group because, again, it was making my stress level really bad. Okay. And it started making me like I started, I don't know, it felt like I was getting sick. I was like, everyone is at a different place in their journey. Yeah. You're going to go through moments of anger. Mm-hmm. The why me? Oh my God. What did I do to deserve this? What did my parents do? Like, did someone in my family do something wrong? Is this some sort of birth defect? You start going through so many different,
especially when a doctor
things.
says hereditary. Now you're trying to trace back in your family to see who had it and who didn't say anything. And you know what? Sometimes we can't even dwell on that stuff. We got to just keep it moving.
Yeah. And then also,
you can't.
You're not gonna find it. I mean, if it took them in 1993 17 years to diagnose me, what makes me think that I'm gonna properly find past relatives who also had this disease?
No, because I'm quite sure they misdiagnosed a lot of people in our families, and especially when people weren't even going to the doctors as often, or they just didn't say anything at all.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'm just grateful that we're in a position where we can change our family's legacy.
Yep.
Because you having to go through it, you're going through it, but you're going through it for somebody else coming behind you. And I'm going through it for somebody else coming behind me. I don't want to die with this inside me and never share the information that I've learned.
Right.
So this is why every chance I get, I educate somebody about it. Like, you got purple hair? Oh yeah, it's purple, not for the Ravens. I like the Ravens. Yeah, I live in Baltimore and the Baltimore Ravens. I like the Ravens. My hair's not purple for that. It's an even bigger cause.
Yeah.
And that's some of the things that I do to help educate people, because I want people to see that everybody that has it is not hunched over in a wheelchair. Like you say, not basically giving up. We fight back.
Yep.
And that's the message today. She fought back. She fought back. Like, I'm so daggone proud of you. When I reached out to you, it was like, yeah, I don't know if it's much of a story. I was like, what? Okay, well, we'll find out. And then when I talked to her on the phone, I was holding the phone like, is she crazy? What do you mean it's not much of a story? Like, girl, I got chills on the phone that day when we talked. And I still do right now. And I thank you. I thank you for opening up. I thank you for being transparent. I thank you for sharing from your heart, because sometimes it's not easy to be that open about something that personal. And in doing so, it's healing. So I pray that you find healing in this. And I know that it's going to bless somebody else. So before we sign off, is there anything else you want to share? Whether it's something that you've learned or anything that works for you that you've done. By the way, y'all, she do soca aerobics. I forgot to mention.
Yay, Natalie!
She out here with Natalie is soca aerobics. Listen, I got the 2-step down. That's it. I don't do all that. I just do 2-step. Explain.
I'm glad you bring that up. So, I know that continuing to move, even though there is discomfort, is better than not moving. And so what I have learned is to just not be embarrassed. I'm really bold with it. I don't care.
I love it.
There's, oh goodness. So anyone who follows Natalie on Facebook, she posted a video one day. Her class was live, and I was having a real bad day today. It was after work. I was tired, but I still showed up to class. And so I didn't realize I was in the camera shot. So there's a few times where I was taking a breather. And so I watched the video later. I realized, oh, fudge, look, there you are in the back. Oh, dear. And so someone posted, to the sister in the back, you can do it. I'm like, that's right. I can do it. Aww. I'm okay with it. It's like, I know that I'm not an elite athlete. And I know that I can only do what I can do. When I go to the gym, I'm not comparing myself to the other person on the treadmill. Whatever I can do that day, that's what I can do that day. Whatever you can do that day, that's what you can do. And so I'm not embarrassed. I don't make excuses.
Right.
I don't have to explain what I can and cannot do.
You just do it.
I just do it. And so, that's, again, like I said, at 18, I thought I was going to die. At that point, I just do Nicole. And if someone doesn't like it, I'm not forcing anybody to be in my presence. So, that's my takeaway.
You're comfortable with you at this point.
You have to be, because if I'm not, it will stress me out. If I'm stressed out, then I'll get sick. And then it's a vicious cycle.
Right.
You're sick because you're stressed. You're stressed because you're sick.
Wow. And we could pretty much end on that. That's powerful within itself. And I'm so glad that I brought that up, because movement is everything. And I just want everybody to know that you can do it. She just said it. You can do it.